People, Deluded, I'm back again. By now, he needs no introduction. He's got his own channel. He's doing well. He's a prominent face on AFTV, and he's always here. And I'm happy to call him a friend. Curtis, how you doing?
What's happening, bro? Good to see you, man. Good to speak.
It's been in fact, now, by our own standards, we spoke quite recently, like, in terms of content on your channel. If you haven't watched that already, people, go and support Curtis's content and go and look at that. But what you been on, man? What you been on? It seems like since the last time we spoke, Arsenal's back. Man City, Wednesday. Well, not this Wednesday, but madness.
Yeah. Do you know what it is, bro? Like, I've been looking forward to this game for weeks. Like, yo, I can't wait. Arsenal's back. I'm excited. But if that game goes the wrong way, we might be sitting here going, yo, null and void could have helped us out, you know? Bro, like, it depends what Arsenal turn up and what Man City turn up, you know what I mean?
It's 100%, man. I'm hoping that their match fitness ain't there quite and we look a bit sharper and we can do something, but they got quality players, man. Like, it's a madness. It's like, it almost doesn't make sense in the sense that when the minute we start playing again, I'm gonna be there, like, and if we lose, I'm just gonna be like, oh, man, man. How do you feel? All this month's wait, and then, you know, all it takes is a long ball over the top to Sergio, unmarked, and then boom, like, it's done. How do you feel about that game anyways? Like, there's not much we can do in terms of a preview, but obviously it's Arteta's first game against his former club, back at the Etihad. We've got an indifferent away form against the top six. What do you feel, without obviously knowing fitness levels and how we'll line up, what do you feel about that game, man?
Do you know what? I look at it like, you know, Pep's going to fire them up because, let's be honest, Pep ain't going to want to lose to his old assistant manager, you know what I mean?
The apprentice sort of thing.
And they're friends as well. But at the same time, City's league season is kind of, there ain't much riding on it. They're not going to win the league. They're pretty much secure in the top four. I think Pep will have one eye on the Champions League, so I'm kind of hoping that, you know, because we need to win this game. Like, I even think Aubameyang's future is riding on whether we can potentially get in the Champions League or not.
Of course.
So for us, we need to be at it, man. And, you know, no fans there. It's going to feel a little bit like a training game. Like you said, we're looking quite sharp. So I'm hoping, you know, I've seen them pictures of De Bruyne looking a little bit, you know, like
looking a bit out of it. Yeah, hopefully him and Sterling, you know.
I'm hoping they've ate a lot of hard food during the break, you know what I mean?
Oh, man.
But, you know, you never know, man. I'd take a draw. Let's be honest, man. If we could get a draw, it'd be all right, you know.
Of course. You said a great point there about atmosphere and no fans. I mean, that could probably help Arsenal because at the Emirates it's quite silent. Away from home, we seem scared of the top, man. So that might help us. But it's a bit of a weird one because obviously for a lot of teams, everything's out of the window now. Like for us, Torreira's probably back. For United, couple players back. Spurs, couple players back. Within reason, form's gone out the window even though we were unbeaten in 2020. Lacazette was starting to score goals again. We're starting to get back in motion and sort of things. Do you think it's a task too high to get top four now? Like, do you think there's too much reliance on other teams and all them things?
If I'm honest, I think we've left ourselves a bit too much to do. Like, maybe our best option is if we can sneak that 5th place and then Man City's ban goes through and then maybe we fall into it. You know what I'm saying? Like that. But I'm looking at the fixtures, man. We got some hard games, bro. Like Liverpool, City, Tottenham. I think we got
Leicester away.
Wolves,
mad things.
Wolves, like they're hard. Like, can you see Arsenal winning all them? We're not going to win all them. Let's be honest. I think we've probably got to win 6 or 7 games out of the last 10 to maybe get anywhere near 5th place, which is a big ask. But you know, like in terms of Europa League. Would you rather be in the Europa League next season, or would you rather be out of all European competition?
It's a tech. We were speaking about this the other day. It's a techie one, bro. For me, it's a techie one because obviously Champions League is like the gulag. It's like last minute saloon. You've got another chance. Like obviously, in an ideal world, if we like Emre season, that last furlong, if we got top 4 because of that, or we just missed out on top 4 and we played better in that final, we can get there. So in terms of another avenue for top 4, to keep saying top 4. Champions League, I'm on it. But I must admit, my stance has changed on not being in Europe full stop. Like, so my boy put a very compelling argument. He's like to me, a lot, not going to say everything, but along the lines of, you know, we're playing less, there's less pressure, less rotation, ultimately less excuses, really. And there's one singular focus. Within reason, obviously, you've got FA Cup, you've got the Carling Cup, whatever it's called now. But I'm starting to believe that, bro. It's like, we're not in nothing. You play once, maybe max twice a week. We do what, obviously, we have a different squad to what Chelsea had, but Chelsea had that good side. The only reason I think I'd be against it is because let's be honest, like in the group stages, it's not like Champions League. You can Arsenal, and we've got a bad squad, we can put our third, fourth choice out there, couple of young players, and get through that. So for the young players like Saka, I don't know how much playing away at Frankfurt set him up to, you know, keep doing his thing that he's doing now. So for them, I'm gonna miss it. But I'm on the fence, but I'm more leaning towards not being in anything, man. But let me flip that question to you. If we don't get top 4, where do we finish? Like, where do we finish and where do we go from there? Like, worst case scenario.
I mean, it's an interesting one because I'm looking at, for example, like the business that Chelsea are doing at the moment.
Scaring me, bro.
And I'm sitting there going, bruv, if they get 2 or 3 of them targets, we got problems there. And this is my worry. I was always of the belief that I think it was better to be in the Europa League because I looked at it like potentially there might be 4 better teams than us in the Premier League, if we're being honest. You know what I'm saying? Like, so at least you've got that backup plan of the Europa League's not that difficult until you've probably got to win 3 or 4 difficult games to win that competition. Like you said, you can get through the group stage with, you know, your backup players, and then, you know, you should get through to the knockout stages.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm looking at it. I believe we've got to keep Aubameyang. My stance on that has changed as well because at one stage I was kind of like, look, if the guy don't want to be here, get as much as you can and move on. But now I'm kind of looking at it like, you got to keep hold of him, even if he doesn't sign a new deal, and get into the Champions League next season. Because if we get in the Champions League next season, I'm sure he would sign a new contract. He'd be 32 next summer. I don't think the likes of Barca and Real would want a 32-year-old striker. So I'm kind of looking at it going, hang on to your best players. I think we need 1 or 2 marquee signings in the summer. I don't think we're going to spend big in the summer. I think it will be like a Thomas Partey or someone like that, one big signing. There might be 1 or 2 cheap ones and maybe a free transfer. But I think it's more get rid of a bit of the deadwood, raise a little bit of money, reduce the wage bill, hang on to your best players and work around this system that Arteta's got, because I think what he's doing is working with the players that we've got. I think they're buying into what he believes in. And I think if you know, I look at Liverpool's team in certain areas, they haven't got a team full of world beaters. You know, you look at Liverpool's midfield with your Hendersons and your Wijnaldums. You know, they're not amazing footballers.
Yeah, they're just consistent, up for it, dynamic. Yeah.
And there you go. And that's all we need. We need the right players for the system that Arteta wants. So they don't all have to be world beaters. But I'm optimistic for next season as long as we can hold on to Aubameyang. I think he's the key.
See, I'm a bit different to you. First, with Aubameyang, I'm like you in terms of running down his deal purely because, yeah, you could probably... In this day and age, you know, you're not going to make back your bread for him. You should, but we're not going to make our money back for him. So you might as well just let him run down his deal in the sense of people might see we're wasting money, but, like, I don't know the figure to hand, but Aubameyang's goals and a big if next season that gets us in the Champions League, you can arguably say that was as important as getting a transfer fee for him, or losing him and not getting there is almost forfeiting that. Similar to the logic that I didn't understand, condone at the time with what the club seemed to be doing with Aaron Ramsey. In relation to Partey, I don't think it's going to happen, you know, bro. Like I thought Aubameyang wasn't going to sign. I'm always pessimistic on Arsenal signings, but it just, you know, when it's too early in the market for me. It seems like there's just too much going well for us. This just screams of a man that's going to sign a contract extension. I hope to God I'm wrong, bro. I hope I'm wrong. And you made an interesting point about clearing out the dead wood. For me, that's why I'm not optimistic. It's almost not going to make sense, but I love my club, but I have faith in Arteta. I've got faith in what Arteta wants to do. It just seems that we're going to keep going 2 steps back. We're going to keep going 2 steps back because we've got a very young side. Like, I know people love Saka and Martinelli. If they played 38 games, I'm not criticizing them, but people might have a different level of them. For the experienced players, Staffy Luiz, Are they going to be at it this year, next year? Whatever centre half we bring in, Saliba's not going to fix all our problems in that he's the Messiah. He'll come and show stuff, but I don't know, bro. And for me as well, you mentioned Chelsea and their targets. I'm jealous of Chelsea as well because you look at that kid Adrian just signed a new deal, Billy Gilmore, new deal, Loftus-Cheek, new deal. Them and they are contracted till 2024. We're not doing that with Saka and Nelson and all of them. You mentioned Liverpool as well. Said it in a vid. That's another great point. When you look at their players, I think people underestimate like coaching and improving players, what Arteta's doing. And I think people underestimate holding man together, like contract renewals and things like that. We don't have that. Like you said, no disrespect to Liverpool. They're a world-class team, but individuals are not necessarily world-class, but they're great on what they do. And it almost, I have to play devil's advocate now. Obviously, you said the players that fit the system, innit? Granit Xhaka. By your own words, yeah, not to put you in it, but if he fits Arteta's system or like he's a player by your own words that he wants, what's your stance on that? Would you move forward with Xhaka if that's his guy sort of thing?
Do you know what it is? I look at Xhaka though, and I just think, I think Arteta was making him work in like kind of with what he had at that point, because I think there's no doubt that, like, I think Hertha Berlin were trying to buy Xhaka in January.
Yeah.
And, you know, we heard all this story that, you know, Arteta begged him to stay. I think he just thought he's going to be too difficult to replace in that window. I've said many times, I would definitely get rid of Xhaka in the summer. He's not what we need. You need high energy in midfield. You look at all the best teams; they've got energy in midfield. Jordan Henderson, you know, he's not an amazing footballer, but he's dynamic. He gets about the pitch, and that gives you a chance. Then, if you can improve technically alongside that, because Granit Xhaka technically is a decent footballer. He can pass a ball, he can shoot, he's okay, but he's not dynamic enough, and that's something that is very difficult to add to your game. You know, if you're not very quick, it's difficult to then become quick. I just don't think it's worked with him. I think clubs would take him. I think there's clubs in Germany that would sign him. I think you'd get half decent money for him, and I would move him on. I get what you're saying about Thomas Partey, though. You know, if he came out today and signed a new 5-year deal at Atletico, you'd think, yo, the man's kind of used us as leverage for the new deal.
We've been swindled again, yeah.
We've been swindled, but, you know, a lot of people are saying that he wants to join from different areas. You know, his dad made that comment. You know, to me, if your dad says that and he's close to his dad, then there's got to be something in that, surely.
There's got to be, yeah. I think that as well, but at the same time, I think it's a bit of a circus, because if I was him, with my contract stuff, he's got his agents, and I think his agents were in a bit of hot water because they were doing that whole egging it on Instagram stuff. You've got his dad. I don't know if they're necessarily saying the right things. Or if I put myself in his shoes. Like, my dad he might have my best interest in heart, but he might not be the best businessman. And if I haven't got the best agents, I don't know. But you said an interesting one about midfield. Now, with Xhaka, I share with for me, I'm indifferent about Xhaka. If Xhaka leaves tomorrow for a decent, he's one of them, I'd say he's available for the right price. If he goes tomorrow, I'm going to cry, but I don't think he's as bad as people make out. I do think there's too much adjusting and stuff you got to do in the starting 11 for him to thrive. And midfield is a key one for me personally, because Arteta played in that role. I wonder how obviously later on in his career, he played at that base in midfield. So I don't know if he sees himself in Xhaka. I want to see what he does there. I actually want to see if he goes with a flat or more dynamic midfield three, or persists with a pivot. Because imagine we get Partey now. Obviously, I don't know what he makes of Ceballos, so Torreira. So you got Partey, Ceballos. Xhaka is probably the one rubbered on to play. You imagine a dynamic midfield three, that would be decent, but it's probably lacking in terms of, you know, the Mesut Ozil sort of stuff. For a year, he's going to have Ozil. Joe Willock's preferred in that pivot role. You've got Emil Smith role. On paper, you've got Mkhitaryan. So I'd say midfield is, defense is, it goes without saying, defense is a priority, but defense is a priority for me, better yet. Midfield is the area I'm looking at, like, there's a lot of question marks, and that's what I want to see Arteta shape up. Because you said it, and you made me start thinking. You was like, you kept mentioning dynamic midfielders, and that might be our problem, because you look at City, bunch of dynamic, man. Liverpool, fairly dynamic. Spurs probably a bit different nowadays, but you'd imagine if they can do a thing. I mean, to be honest, Sissoko's fairly dynamic, Dembele is not the most. But the point remains, like, the most of the teams doing the best over the world right now typically are high energy and high demanding. And I don't know who in midfield is that really and truly. And I think we need two midfielders. So could you really see us getting two decent centre mids, centre half, and maybe a marquee man, or is that too much to ask Arsenal to do in one window?
Do you know what? If I look at it, I'm not too sure we're going to buy a centre-back. Honestly, I'm not. Because I'm looking at it now, I'm saying to myself, all right, we want like an upper Meccano or something like that, but they're bringing in Saliba, who I think they're going to try and play him from the get-go, yeah? They'll sign Pablo Mari on a permanent. I think that deal was basically done anyway.
All but name, yeah.
I think that it sounds like David Luiz is going to get a year extension as well. Then you've got Rob Holding, who I think they will persist with him for another year because, you know, he's just kind of recovered from the injury.
Give him a chance.
Full pre-season. They're going to give him a chance. Socrates, I would get rid of him, but they may even keep him. He's got 1 year left. I think Mustafi, they'll try and get rid of. Mavropanos, apparently, you know, clubs are trying to buy him. I would personally let him go as well if you could get decent money for him. So I'm not too sure they're going to prioritise centre-back. I agree with you. I think we need 2 centre mids. I'd like to see a ball winner and a ball player in there. Ceballos, if Ceballos goes as well, that's another player gone. The problem for me is Mesut Ozil, and I don't mean to single him out because, you know, when you criticise Mesut Ozil, people say, oh, you got an agenda against him. I ain't got no agenda against him. I look at the position he plays. Number 1, number 10s are coming out of the game right now. They're a luxury.
They're not coming out. They're gone. The days of the pure 10 is gone. It's gone.
The pure 10 is gone, right? You've got to have dynamic midfielders in there now. And Mesut Ozil isn't dynamic. Let's face it, in the 10 role, he's not tearing teams apart. He's got like, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 assists this year.
Yeah, he's falling off.
He's not overly effective. I think our midfield, we need 3 people in there who can get about the pitch. And then you can push your 2 wingers higher and allow the front 3. You look at Liverpool's front 3, you don't see Mane back covering Robertson. You know, Robertson kind of does it himself, and the midfielders push out and help the fullback.
Yeah.
They spread themselves.
Doing that towards the left-hand side, to be fair to him.
Yeah. Xhaka was doing that well, to be fair, with Saka at left-back. But, yeah, I would like to see us get a couple of midfielders in. But, yeah, if we don't get Partey, I'm not too sure who we can go for. We're being linked with people from La Liga and things like that. But I think the midfield has been a problem at Arsenal for years. Years and years. I think the closest pivot we had that kind of worked was the Coquelin Cazorla, and that wasn't even the finished article.
It wasn't the best. It was just working. It was just working.
It was working. Yeah. So we need to be wise. But like you said, Arteta was a midfielder, so he should understand what we need in the midfield. And he's seen Man City's midfield close up. So that's what he needs to address. We need energy. We need power. We need someone who can go away from home and dictate a game on the ball.
Right back. I say right back to you purely because it's an area that a lot of people and myself kind of disregard this because, and it depends how you look at it, because I think Suarez, similar to Marie, that's a permanent. I don't know that to be true, but I think that's a permanent. Technically, you've got Bellerin, you've got Maitland-Niles, you've got Osei Tutu in the academy at a push. I'm sure I don't like these options, but you've seen Socrates and Mustafi pushed out there at a push. So there's kind of bare men that are there. But on the other hand, Bellerin's contracted until 2022. He's been a bit injury prone, so we're gonna have to see something. Backup, who is really there, is right back in area you're looking at, because Pepe's been poor. I don't even think Pepe's been poor. He's been indifferent and a bit underwhelming, but he's not been poor. That's harsh. And he's got to take responsibility himself. But do you imagine if he had a consistent, if he had a consistent sort of partner to build a relationship down that right-hand flank with, could he fare better? I think you look at it, regardless of whatever combination we put down that left-hand side, Saka left wing, Martinelli there, Tierney, Kolasinac, we seem to be very left-hand centric, and I don't think we're as devastating on the right-hand side. And you're at the Emirates almost every week with me as well. It's like, do you see that as well? Or like, what's your perspective?
Yeah, the thing with Bellerin, I mean, he's a player that, and you can't go and sell 8, 9, 10 players in one window. It doesn't really happen. But if a club was knocking on the door with a good price for Bellerin, I honestly would take it. Personally, because I think there are potential replacements out there. You know, I would take Max Aarons. I would take Semedo from Barcelona if you could get him.
Very from fullback. Very.
You know, I mean, very good right backs. I'm disappointed that Ainsley never really grabbed it with both hands. I get the point. He wants to play midfield, and you know, it was good to see him play in midfield the other day against Charlton because, you know, you've been asking for it, so go and do the business there. But I felt he could have made a career for himself at right back. I almost think he was almost better than Bellerin in certain areas at right
definitely
back.
For me, definitely the final third. Definitely in the final.
Definitely the final third. To me, I think the club will keep Bellerin, definitely keep him for another year. And you've got to give him a chance, really, to see if he can build a partnership with Pepe. Because, I mean, I don't know how many times them two have played in the same team together, but
I couldn't tell
can't
you.
be many.
It can't be many. It can't be more than 5, and even 5, I'm not confident with that. No one could tell you. I can't tell you that. God knows.
And even Cedric, it will be interesting with him because, I mean, when we signed him, I thought, you know, on a free transfer, that's not bad as a second choice right back. You know, he's a Portuguese international. We haven't seen him play yet, but just from remembering him at Southampton, I always felt like he was quite a solid right back defensively.
He's all right in that.
He's all right. So we've got numbers there, but I think they'll keep Bellerin. I agree with what you're saying. I think Cedric, they'll probably do that deal. You got Ainsley as backup. I don't think they'll be looking for a right back, if I'm honest.
You mentioned, we were speaking about it before, and you mentioned it now, so it's set up perfectly. Obviously, we didn't watch the game against Charlton, but, you know, we hear Maitland-Niles played in midfield, did fairly okay. We don't know if that's just to get match fitness, or we don't know if there was more to it with that regard. So, like, what's your opinion on him in midfield and his chances in midfield, or if you'd give him a chance in midfield or whatever?
I can't remember what game it was. It was a Europa League game. I think it was this season. We played in midfield. I think it was in the group stage, and he wasn't good, man. He was sloppy on the ball. But I always, from a positive point of view, I always remember the Old Trafford game where he got man of the match against Pogba. So you look at that and you think he's got to have something in the tank, you know, some sort of capability in there. Look, I look at it like this. Ainsley's got good energy and good pace. So that's a starting point. Now, our midfield is not great. So it's not like the standard is really, really high and, you know, there's no chance he can get in there. Why not give him a go now? We're going to be playing games every, 3 days, 5 substitutes. I wouldn't mind seeing him play in there because you don't know. You know, he could be a gem for us there. I remember Trent Alexander used to play in midfield. He went to right back. He's now probably the best right back in world football. So if Ainsley wants to play in midfield, give him a chance. I'm all for that. Why not?
I agree with what you're saying. For me, Maitland, I would just like to grab him by the ears and say, listen, lock down this right back position. You can do what you want. You've started it like Saka. You can do what you want. Or you could be both. You know, it's more games for you. If you look, you typically see a lot of centre mids become right backs and right backs become centre mid. You just said it with Trent. So it's good for his experience. I don't know, as much as I like him, and you know me, I'm very biased when it comes to Hayland Academy graduates. So when I look at him, I'm like, on one hand, I don't know what he's got. I think he's different to any midfield options, but I don't know what he's going to bring to midfield because, like you said, pace, energy. To be fair, I don't think he'd be playing 10, but if Joe Willock, no disrespect to him, I like him, but if he can get opportunities in midfield, I see no reason as to why Maitland can. So it must be an attitude thing. But it's like, what is Maitland going to bring? What midfielder is he? Because Arteta spoke of him very highly. He said he can do defensive, offensive, he's strong, he's this, he's that. It's like, what could he do? Because it's like, I don't think he's the best in terms of creating and building. I think he could be a ball winner, break it down and stuff. You mentioned the concentration sort of stuff in midfield. I think that's a good starting point. It's like Guendouzi. It's like Guendouzi's different. He likes too many touches, but you can coach that out. I think if Maitland had a bit more urgency in his game and found the balance, he'd be decent. But do you think his days here are numbered?
Possibly, you know, I think he's got the rest of the season to kind of show Arteta what he's about in terms of ability and attitude. You know, you've heard Arteta question him and talk about him turning up late for training and them things. It's like you said, you just want to grab him and say, yo, bro, do you know what kind of opportunity you've got right now?
At your feet.
And you're not making the most of it. So I think these last 10 games will be crunch time for him. I think Arteta's going to give him a chance, and that's what I like to see. You know, give him the opportunity before you make your mind up. But, you know, if we're working with a restricted transfer budget in the summer, you know, someone like Ainsley Maitland-Niles, you know, English player, young player at Arsenal, somebody in the lower to mid side of the Prem would probably take him on a hike thing, you know what I mean? So he needs to be careful. You know, if he don't sort himself out, I reckon he could be gone in the summer. But on the flip side, if he does well, maybe it can be the turning point in his career at Arsenal.
What do you think in terms of fee? What do you think you could grab for him?
See, we're not normal when it comes to selling players. You know, if Ainsley played for Liverpool,
or something like
if he played for Liverpool, he'd be going for 30 million, 25 million. But Arsenal, you probably see him go for like 15 million, bro, at Arsenal. To like Crystal Palace or someone like that, you know what I mean?
And then get sold for a profit, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, it's like Maitland. That's how I feel about a lot of them, excluding Martinelli and Saka. I think all these young players can make it, but I look at Maitland.
Yeah.
Nelson's one I don't want to leave, but I look at Maitland, I look at Nelson, I look at Emil, I look at Joe, Eddie to a slight degree. I'm like, I don't want to sell you lot. I think you lot are players of the futures. But if someone says, you know what, 20 odd million for Joe, 20 odd million for Maitland, I'll start a conversation for 20 odd for Nelson, you know. It's a bit in the balance for a lot of these players, Emil Smith-Rowe, and it goes against them in that many people want them to be the finished articles. But on the flip side, there's been a player who's at the other end of his career, Thiago Silva. I'm sure, ironically, again, you've seen him linked with Arsenal. Would you take that?
I don't know if I would, you know. I mean, how old is he? He's like 35, isn't he now?
34, 35 minimum. Yeah, he ain't got too much years left in the old dog.
Nah.
No respect to him.
Do you know what? Sometimes I don't mind a little free transfer on the short term. You know, you can be quite clever with it, but I don't know with Thiago Silva, man. I watched him the last couple of years. His legs are kind of gone. He's been in the French league kind of coasting for 3 or 4 years now. I think the Premier League would shock him. I don't think he'd. No, I wouldn't like to see that deal happen, man. I think we need to change the dynamics in defence. You've got David Luiz there for that experience, you know, player. Thiago Silva. Can you imagine Thiago Silva and David Luiz at centre back in the Premier League?
That's what scares me.
Do you know what I mean?
Ability, but that's the Brazilian. They'll look at it like it's a Brazilian partnership. It's a free transfer. They're both experienced. They're both proven winners. I can see them doing it. Like, it doesn't make sense financially because I don't know if I'm Thiago Silva. I want my PSG wages or close to that. More importantly than that, I want a 2-year deal, maybe even 3. I'm pushing for that, and it goes against us because you'd have him, you'd have Ozil, you'd have Luiz, you'd have these players towards the late 20s, wrong side of 30s that just need to be moved on. Would you rather go with excluding that? Go with something like a David Luiz and a Saliba, or Marie and a Saliba, or Saliba and another young centre-half, bearing in mind we both know they will make mistakes, there will be questionable stuff. Do you more want to go with a young sort of trial and error partnership sort of thing versus these experienced to pass the hill centre-half sort of thing?
100%. I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes in defence you do need a little bit of experience. It's just one of them positions where sometimes you need organisation. You know, you can put 2 young strikers up front and their energy and movement and their finishing. But in defence, you need a wise head sometimes. I think David Luiz has been an okay signing. I think, you know, he gets a lot of criticism from Arsenal fans, I think, because, number one, he does make mistakes. And number 2, he came from Chelsea and we kind of felt like the Peter Cech deal wasn't a major success. So I think people were already quite negative about the David Luiz signing. But I always say be realistic. He's been our best centre-back this season, in my opinion. He's our best ball-playing centre-back. You know, they say he's been massive in the changing room. Apparently, he's a very popular figure. He's been influential in the pay cut and everything. Apparently, he was the one leading all that in the dressing room.
The young players as well.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I seen Saka and him bantering on Twitter, I think it was yesterday. And, you know, I think he seems like a very big character, and you need characters in the dressing room. So for me, I want Saliba in the team next season. And, you know, Pablo Mari, give him a chance because, you know, we don't know how good he is. And David Luiz as well. They're the 3 that I'll be looking at. And also maybe give Rob Holding another chance, man. I'm not the biggest fan of Rob Holding, but I have to acknowledge the fact that he's had spells at Arsenal where he looked like he was going to become a really good player. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to see Thiago Silva, man. I mean, he must be on big wages as well. So I don't want to see that.
I mean, the only way I'll take it, do you know what? I like Thiago Silva, but I share everything you said. I think I'll be more open to it if Luiz was going to go, purely because I have no doubt that Luiz is, and Silva, they'll probably show they're good at some point, but their age will become evident. At the same time, we're not a retirement home. It goes against all the logic we're told about fans of, you know, resources and saving money and being prudent and things. This just screams short-term freestyling. And I think we saw that evidently with the signing of David Luiz. Like, I mean, no criticism to, like you said, he's been playing well, and Arsenal, to be fair. But you look at when we signed him, did we identify that we're going for David Luiz in the months before it? Or did we see someone who Lampard said, you know what, you're not in our plans, it's probably the wrong side of 30, not the biggest of fees. You know, you're in London, can tempt him to come to it. And then we went for him as such. Like, do we genuinely want that Thiago Silva? Or is it because he's been told by PSG he's allowed to go? It's like the Boateng stuff. It's like you bring in Boateng. I have no doubt it will bring in his experience, you know, the vocal stuff. But do you genuinely want these people, or are you actually scouting players? Because it's easy for me to say, but I ain't got no targets. But surely there's a man that's in the second division in France or Holland or in the first division that's a decent centre-half that these scouts have been watching against the top strikers play. I don't see why you can't go and grab it. Like, you look at Bailly to Man United. Okay, it hasn't worked out, but they grabbed him from Villarreal. Before Villarreal grabbed him, I think he was at Espanyol. He's only in the continent of Europe for a few sets, basically. So it's like, we're going for our scouting sort of thing. And you mentioned a great point about Holding. I love Holding. I think Holding's a decent centre-half, but you've got to be cruel to be kind. He's a bit naive, and I don't want to keep holding everybody's hands, but it's complicated because you've got him. Chambers isn't necessarily my cup of tea, but I think he deserves another chance under Arteta. He was looking decent. I think he played well against Chelsea. Then, unfortunately, he got the madness. You know, Luiz probably stay. I agree with you about Marie, Saliba. So that's about 5 centre-halves already. I want another centre-half, so it's about 6 man now. And then, obviously, you've got the Mustafis, the Socrates, and them things there. Mavropanos, I'm with you. You know, if you can get a 20, do it. If not, I wouldn't force him out. I think he's one of them. Loan him out a couple of years. Let's see if he can become a sort of player. If not, he didn't spend big money. But it's like, how have we got in such a mess over the centre halves? Because there's too much quantity and not enough quality. Like, and I mean, no criticism. It's just that's the realest truth. Like, it's sad.
And it's like, it goes back to, we used to do this with the strikers. You know, when Van Persie left, we were like, go and get a big striker. I always say that I believe the Luis Suarez deal was a potential turning point in Arsenal's career as a club. If they would have got that deal done, we would have won the Premier League. We might have even still had Arsene Wenger at the club now. That's how bad it was. But they messed around. You know, they went Podolski, they went Giroud, they went Danny Welbeck, they went Lucas Perez. They're always trying to find a shortcut. But the reality is, there is no shortcut. You know what I'm saying? So, and they've done the same thing at centre-back. You know, many times we could have bought top-quality centre-backs, but they got Mustafi and they got Socrates and all of these, man. I reckon last season they put all their eggs in that Upamecano basket. They made an offer. It was rejected. They probably got to the end of the window, you know, sat down with Sanelli and said, yo, speak to your people, man. What have you got for me? They probably said, well, make something happen. Yeah, I can get you David Luiz for 8 million, get the deal done quick, and they've probably just done it at the end. And this is what confuses me with Arsenal, because we seem to be changing. We went Sven Mislintat and said, you know, we're going to unearth gems. We can't compete with Man City on this spending. We're going to look for the gems around Europe and go that route. And then all of a sudden they got rid of him, brought in Sanelli, who wants to work with all these big mega agents, which is great, but you can't go to Kia Joorabchian and say, give me your top player, because his top player is going to cost you 70, 80 million. So we're speaking to Kia Joorabchian going, we need to get Coutinho off him. But the reality is we'll probably get Willian off him instead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, literally.
Do you know what I'm saying? So the direction of the club at times, it confuses me. Like, what are you trying to achieve? Like, signing all these older players, and you know, I think it's Socrates' birthday today. He's what, 32?
Yeah, 32 today.
32. Yeah. I mean, them signing. I look at them signings there, and I just think, you know, when he leaves the club, are we going to remember him? No, we're not. Like Lichtsteiner and these man here. Like, I'm sick of these type of players.
Oh Lord,
Lichtsteiner.
Wow.
Yeah, you want to forget about him as well, you know.
It's so true. I remember him against City. He peed me off, man. To be fair to me, he had literally one decent game. I can't remember who it was, but one. But he was dead. Our fans got gassed off him in pre-season. Let me ask you this.
Yeah, go on.
Does the David Luiz thing stink of the Koscielny stuff to you? Because I say that because I remember Koscielny, when he came, he had a tough time at Arsenal, became Boscielny, and he done his thing. But I think we had an over-reliance on Monreal as well to a degree. We had an over-reliance on these older heads when we should have been kind of biting the bullet, say, okay, cool, you're taking a reduced role. We're going to try and do a Saliba or a younger centre-half and move forward. And I see this potentially again with Luiz. Now, obviously, Luiz isn't going to be here for a number of years, but like you said, he's our best ball-playing centre-half. For me, with what we want to do, that screams you're vital to this team now because we need to play from the back. Obviously, his age, he's going to play week in, week out. And similar to Koscielny, we heard Koscielny was kind of vexed about that towards the end. So you're risking a lot. And if David Luiz gets injured, like I'm sure me and you it could change, but me and you could sit here. What is the best partnership? Like if David Luiz gets injured. So that does it stink of the Koscielny thing to you? Because arguably we haven't replaced Koscielny really and truly when he was in his prime, really. Like we're still, it seems like every year we sign a centre-half and scream we need a defender. I don't get it. Like, I don't understand, bro. Like,
and the thing is, you make a good point there because the problem is, when do Arsenal sign a centre-back in his prime? Like, I can't remember the last time we bought one. Like, Socrates was past it. David Luiz was past it. You know what I mean? All these guys, we're buying them, or we're buying someone who's young and just developing, like a Holding coming out of League One, or, Saliba's coming out of France. He hasn't got loads of experience. I think the Arsenal fans have already got this belief that Saliba's going to be like the saving grace to our back four. You know what I'm saying? Like, the guy's like 18, 19. Like, he's going to make mistakes. And Tierney, we need that to work out next season because a lot of injury problems there. So, yeah, you make a good point, man. I think we need to change the direction of our back four. And the fans have to be patient because when you go in that direction, there will be days where that doesn't work. There'll be days where, an experienced Sergio Aguero is too clever for a Saliba and he scores a couple of goals and you don't need fans hammering him, So we've got to be patient with them as well. We've got to understand now that Arsenal's become a project. We are a project now. We're not a giant in the market. We're not going to go into the market and go and make marquee signings every summer. Like, I think the club stretched the budget last year. Like, we spent over 100 million last season in the window, but unfortunately it didn't work out for Emery, which is a shame because at the end of the window last year, I had real optimism about this season.
It was a decent window by our standards.
It was a decent window, like Ceballos, Real Madrid ball player. Pepe was sought after. Martinelli was the youngster. Like Tierney, a lot of clubs wanted him. Luiz for the experience. So I think we really messed up this season, man, the manager and the players. But, moving forward, let's go in a different direction, man. Stop signing these older, washed up players because I don't see Liverpool, City and them clubs making them type of signings.
It almost doesn't make sense as well, bro, because it's like you mentioned Pepe and it got me thinking. Now, obviously, we know the way the Pepe deal is structured, it's not 70 million drop down on the table, but it's like that just tells you the culture about this team. It's like we wouldn't spend 70 odd on the centre half. Like when was the last centre half that come out of our academy as well? Bare man have come through. Even all these men in the academy right now, they're more further forward players or the ones that are on the edge of first team. None of them are centre halves. Maitland-Niles is all right, cool. We'll say he's a fullback because he's been engineered to do that now. But it's like I think does that tell you the culture about this team? That I don't want to go as far to say we don't respect defending, but I genuinely, for want of better phrases, don't think Arsenal are yet, at least Arteta's doing it, but historically, we ain't respected defending or defensive arts because why don't we go out there and structure a payment somewhere and show that intent of 70 odd million on a defender if need be? Like, I don't necessarily think Koulibaly is a messiah as people make out to be, but I'm sure you would agree. You couldn't see us spending 70 odd on Koulibaly in the same way we did on Pepe. Like, I don't understand the intentions because centre half defense wins you titles. Really, strikers win you games. Defense wins you titles. Like you can have, like we've proven. Aubameyang, nobody. I think only Mo Salah, if anything, has outscored him. But look at defensively, what are we doing? Like, it's a sticky one, bro. It's a sticky one, man. All right, worst case. Let me ask you this to round this up. Right. Where do you think, as high as we can finish and as low as we can finish?
I would say, I think the highest we can aim for is 5th place. I don't see us getting 4th. I think 5th, and obviously if the City bang goes through, then that would be the jackpot for us if we could somehow get in the Champions League. The lowest, I mean, I suppose where we are now, bro. I mean, we're in a low position, and there has to be an acknowledgement because, you know, sometimes on my own videos, some fans say, "Oh, you're a little bit negative," but then I say, I believe I'm being positive because what I'm saying is, as a fan base, we should be demanding more from the football club, from the players. We are a big club. We don't have a divine right to just be in the top four. I get that, but we shouldn't be accepting, we're 9th, 10th in the league. Like, we've got, I'm sure someone was saying we've got the most expensive front four in the Premier League.
And one of the least budgets to match. Like,
do you know what I mean? I mean, Pepe 70 million, Lacazette 50, Aubameyang 56, and Ozil 40 odd. Like, that's big money. So, to me as a fan, I feel like we should be expecting some sort of quality from that. So, but to me, what I want to see now, I look at it like it's a long-term plan now. It's not necessarily going to happen overnight. I hope we can come back and hit the ground running. I actually think having no fans in the stadium will help Arsenal because I think players like Xhaka, like Mustafi, like Lacazette, they get a lot of pressure from the fans after a couple of bad games.
Yeah.
Pepe as well, you know. So I think it will help those kind of players to just play with freedom and go and express yourself. There ain't no fans abusing you. So let's finish the season well, finish as high as we can in the league. Try and win the FA Cup. It'd be nice to win a trophy.
True.
Hang on to Aubameyang, shift some of the deadwood, few good signings in the summer, and then let's go for it next season, man, and get behind Arteta.
I mean, you've summed it up perfectly, Curtis. The problem is it's easier said than done in Arsenal's thing, man.
Yeah, there you go. It ain't Football Manager, is it? You know?
Yeah. I wish it was. I got Mbappe in Football Manager now, so I'm doing all right for Arsenal. I spent like, what, 350 million? He's on like 4 Saturday a week. He's getting...
Oh, listen, you see that stadium behind you, yeah? For us to get Mbappe, we'd probably have to sell that whole stadium and everything.
Have to lease it all, yeah. Probably have to burn it down, take all the copper and stuff. And
yeah, for real.
May even have to sell Bergkamp statue and try to do something as well.
Need it for real, man.
Curtis, it's always lovely to speak with you, man. I'm gonna let you go. You're busy, my guy. But yeah, plug yourself, man. They should know you are, but plug yourself.
Yeah, man, check out the channel, Curtis Shaw TV, putting out plenty of content, special guests like yourself and others. Obviously, just been nominated Best New Content Creator Football Content Awards. Congratulations to yourself, bro. 2 nominations.
Well, my guy.
I'm hoping you come out of there with 2 trophies in your hand, bro.
We need to win. We need to bring it home. Like, is that Spurs' ground? One of us needs to bring this back, people. You need to vote for both of us. Make sure you go on. I think even in this video, the description will be there to the link page. Make sure you vote for Curtis. What's your category again? It's Best New Content Creator, innit?
Yeah, Best New. And what's yours? Best in Video.
Best in Video and Best Club Content. So yeah, people spam that. As you know, you can vote on Instagram, Twitter, the main website. You can vote on your iPhone, your laptop, everything you've got. Make sure you go hard for my guy Curtis and myself, man. But yeah, man, love for that, my guy. You know.
Yeah, big up, brother. Every time.
Love. Peace.